The laughter and music from the dance floor sounded like it was miles away. I sat on a cheap folding chair, tucked behind a massive flower arrangement in the far corner of the ballroom. My sister's wedding. My own sister. A waiter finally noticed me and leaned down. "Miss? Are you at the wedding party or—" He trailed off, confused. "I'm the bride's sister," I whispered, my face burning. His eyes widened slightly before he composed himself. "Of course. My apologies." He hurried away, but not before I saw the pity in his eyes. That was worse than the anger. Then I saw Chloe across the room, my perfect sister in her perfect white dress. She was laughing with her bridesmaids, but her eyes found mine across the distance, and she smiled. A small, cold, victorious smile that said everything. "Yes, I put you here, and yes, you deserve to be here." I looked down at my hands, willing the tears not to fall. That's when a shadow fell over me. I looked up to see a man standing there. He was handsome, dressed in a suit that probably cost more than my rent, with eyes that saw right through me. "You can't sit here," he said, his voice low but firm. My heart sank to my feet, of course. Now I was being kicked out of my corner too, but then he held out his hand. "You're coming to sit with me." Before I could process what was happening, his fingers closed around mine. He pulled me gently to my feet and didn't let go as he led me away from the shadows, right through the middle of the dance floor, past my gaping parents, past Chloe, whose smile had frozen into a mask of shock. He brought me to the very front table, the one where the wedding party sat, and pulled out an empty chair right next to the groom's parents. "Everyone," he said, his voice clear and confident. "This is Sophia. She'll be sitting with us." Then he leaned close, his words for me alone. "And starting tomorrow," he whispered, "you're going to learn what it feels like to be truly valued." The world seemed to freeze after he spoke those words. "You're going to learn what it feels like to be truly valued." What did that mean? Who was this man? My hand still tingled where his fingers had been, and I could feel every eye at the table burning into me. The groom's mother recovered first. "Well, how lovely to have you join us, dear," she said, though her smile was tight. "I'm Margaret, Mark's mother." I tried to speak, but only managed a weak nod. My parents at the next table were having a silent, frantic conversation with their eyes. My mother's face was pale, my father's confused. But Chloe looked like she wanted to strangle me with her bare hands. The stranger, Alex he'd said his name was, acted as if this was completely normal. He engaged Mark's father in conversation about golf, occasionally turning to include me with a simple question. "Don't you think so, Sophia?" Or "What's your take on that?" He was building a protective bubble around me with nothing but words and calm confidence. For the first time all day, I wasn't the awkward sister in the corner. I was Sophia, the woman who had arrived with the mysterious, well-dressed Alex. When the salad course arrived, Alex stopped the server. "Could we get a fresh one for Sophia?" "This one has been sitting," he'd noticed. He'd noticed the wilted lettuce that had been served to me at my isolated table. As we ate, I kept waiting for someone to expose this as a mistake, for Chloe to come over and demand I return to my corner, for my parents to intervene. But nobody did. Alex's quiet authority created a force, field around us that even my dominant sister couldn't penetrate. During the best man's speech, I finally gathered the courage to whisper to him, "Why are you doing this? You don't even know me." He kept his eyes forward, nodding along with the speech as he answered quietly. "I know enough. I've been watching your family dynamics all evening. Nobody puts their sister in the corner unless they're trying to make a point. I just decided to make a better one." The way he said it, so matter-of-fact, as if rescuing strangers from family drama was something he did regularly, left me speechless. When it came time for the bouquet toss, all the single women were called to the dance floor. I stayed firmly in my seat, praying nobody would notice me. But of course Chloe noticed. Her voice cut through the music on the microphone. "Come on, Sophie. Don't be shy. You never know, this might be your only chance." The cruelty was so blatant it stole my breath. A few people laughed awkwardly. My face burned with fresh humiliation. Then I felt Alex's hand cover mine on the tablecloth. He didn't look at me, didn't say a word. Just kept his hand there, solid and warm, while staring directly at Chloe with an unreadable expression. Chloe's smile vanished. She turned abruptly and tossed the bouquet over her shoulder without another word. That simple gesture, his hand on mine, meant more than any speech could have. He wasn't just giving me a better seat. He was giving me back my dignity, piece by piece. Later, as guests began to leave, my mother approached me. "Sophia, what is this about?" she hissed, pulling me aside. "Who is that man? You're embarrassing the family." Before I could form a response, Alex was beside us. "Mrs. Evans," he said smoothly, "thank you for a wonderful celebration. Sophia was kind enough to keep me company. I hope you don't mind," my mother flustered under his polite but firm gaze. "Well, of course not. Thank you for keeping her company." After she retreated, Alex turned to me. "I meant what I said earlier." He handed me a simple black business card with just a name and number. "Alexander Thorne. My driver will pick you up tomorrow at 10. We'll discuss your future." "My future?" I stared at the card, then at him. "I don't understand. What is this about?" "Let's just say I recognize talent when I see it," he said. "And I believe you have plenty that's been overlooked." He glanced toward where Chloe was standing with her new husband. Sometimes it takes a stranger to see what those closest to you choose not to. As he walked away, I looked down at the card in my hand. The cheap folding chair in the corner felt like a different lifetime. The humiliation I'd felt just an hour earlier was now mixed with something I hadn't felt in years: hope. The stranger hadn't just taken my hand. He hadn't just given me a seat at the important table. He'd shown me that maybe, just maybe, I didn't have to accept the role my family had assigned me, and tomorrow at 10 o'clock I was going to find out why. The morning after the wedding, I woke up with that familiar feeling of dread in my stomach. It was the same feeling I'd had every morning since. I'd moved back home after college, a heavy awareness of not measuring up, of being a disappointment. But this time it was different. This time the dread was mixed with something else, a nervous, fluttering anticipation. I looked at the black business card on my nightstand. Alexander Thorne. Just a name and a number. No company name, no title. Who was this man? And why had he singled me out? My phone buzzed. It was a text from my mom. "Hope you're happy. Chloe is furious. You ruined her wedding photos." I put the phone down, my chest tight. I hadn't done anything wrong. I'd just accepted a seat at a table. But in my family, not playing my assigned role was the ultimate transgression. At 9:55 a.m., I stood by the living room window, peering through the blinds. My parents were at work, and the house was quiet. Right at 10 o'clock, a sleek, black sedan pulled up in front of our modest house. It looked impossibly out of place on our street. A driver in a crisp uniform got out and opened the back door for me. "Miss Evans? Mr. Thorne is expecting you." The inside of the car was all soft leather and quiet luxury. As we drove through the city, I watched my familiar neighborhood give way to a part of town I rarely visited, a district of gleaming high-rises and designer storefronts. My simple sundress suddenly felt all wrong. The car stopped in front of a building with a discreet, polished brass sign that read simply, "Thorne Enterprises." The driver escorted me to a private elevator that opened directly into a stunning, sun-drenched penthouse office. The room was all clean lines and floor-to-ceiling windows, with a few pieces of modern art that probably cost more than my parents' house. And there, standing by the window, was Alex. He was dressed more casually today in dark trousers and a simple, button-down shirt, but he still carried that same air of quiet authority. "Sophia," he said, turning with a small smile. "Thank you for coming. Please have a seat." I sat in the chair opposite his minimalist desk, my hands clasped tightly in my lap. "Alex, please," he corrected gently. "And the confusion is understandable. My behavior last night was unorthodox." He leaned back, studying me. "Let me be direct. I didn't just invite you here out of pity. I invited you here because I see potential." "Potential for what?" I asked, bewildered. "Your sister mentioned you were a graphic designer." She said it dismissively, as if it were a cute little hobby. "But I did some digging." He picked up a tablet and swiped the screen. "I found your online portfolio. The work you did for the Green Cafe rebrand, it's excellent. Clean, intuitive, with a real sense of brand soul. That's not easy to achieve." I was stunned. He'd looked me up. "That was just a small local project," I stammered. "Talent isn't measured by the size of the project," he said firmly. "It's measured by the quality of the thinking. And you think, well..." He paused, letting that sink in. No one in my family had ever spoken about my work that way. "I have a proposition for you. A 3-month paid internship here at Thorne Enterprises. You'd be working directly with my senior creative team on a major new project." My jaw nearly dropped. Thorne Enterprises. I'd heard of it, of course. It was a massive, diversified holding company with interests in tech, real estate, and retail. An internship here was a golden ticket, the kind that went to Ivy League graduates with flawless resumes. Why was all I could manage. Why me? Alex's expression grew more serious. Because I built this company from nothing. My own family told me I'd never amount to anything. I know what it looks like when someone is being systematically underestimated. I see the same spark in you that I had to fight to protect in myself. I'm offering you a chance to fan that spark into a flame, in an environment where you'll be valued for your mind, not your place in a family hierarchy. Tears pricked at the corners of my eyes, and I quickly looked down. He was offering me more than a job. He was offering me an escape. A chance to become the person I'd always wanted to be, but never had the confidence to pursue. What about my sister? My family? I whispered. What about them? He replied, his voice gentle but unwavering. Sophia, you are 26 years old. You get to choose whose opinion matters. You can spend the next 26 years begging for scraps of approval from people who have already decided you're not enough. Or you can step into a world that will judge you solely on your merit. The choice is yours. He slid a contract across the desk. The salary was more than I'd ever made. The terms were generous. It was real. I don't expect an answer right now, he said. Take the day. Read the contract. But know this. The seat at the table I offered you last night was temporary. This one, he tapped the contract, is permanent. But you have to be the one to choose to sit in it. The driver took me home. The house was still empty. I sat at the kitchen table, the thick stack of contract papers in front of me. My whole life I had been waiting for permission, from my parents, from Chloe, to be important, to matter. Alex Thorne wasn't giving me permission. He was giving me a choice. And for the first time, the fear of staying the same began to feel greater than the fear of change. That evening, the confrontation I'd been dreading happened. My parents and Chloe arrived home together. Chloe stormed into the living room where I was sitting, the contract still in my hands. Well, are you going to explain yourself? She demanded, her arms crossed. Who was that man? Mom said he had a driver. His name is Alex Thorne, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. He's the CEO of Thorne Enterprises. He offered me a job. The silence that fell was absolute. My father's eyebrows shot up. My mother stared, speechless. Chloe was the first to break. She let out a short, sharp laugh. Oh, please. Thorne Enterprises? What, as a receptionist? Don't be ridiculous, Sophie. No, I said, looking directly at her. As a graphic designer, on a senior creative team. He saw my portfolio. The disbelief on their faces was a physical thing. It was as if I'd told them I was flying to the moon. But in how? My mother finally asked, bewildered. He saw my work and he liked it, I said simply. I didn't mention the corner. I didn't mention the rescue. That part of the story was mine alone. Chloe's expression shifted from disbelief to something uglier. So what? You're just going to drop everything and go work for some stranger who probably just feels sorry for you? I looked down at the contract, then back at my sister. At my parents. I saw a lifetime of being small in their eyes. And then I thought of the look in Alex's eyes. A look of genuine belief. Yes, I said, my voice clear and firm. I am. I stood up and walked to my room, leaving them in stunned silence. I closed the door and leaned against it, my heart pounding. It was the scariest thing I had ever done. But as I picked up a pen and signed my name on the dotted line, I knew it was also the bravest. The invisible sister was finally stepping into the light. The first day at Thorne Enterprises felt like stepping onto another planet. The private elevator opened not to Alex's personal office, but to a buzzing, open concept floor filled with natural light and the quiet hum of focused energy. Dozens of people sat at modern workstations or collaborated in glass-walled meeting rooms. Their conversations a mix of creative jargon and business strategy. Everyone looked intensely capable. A friendly woman named Sarah greeted me. You must be Sophia. Alex told me to expect you. Welcome to the creative team. She showed me to my own workstation, a spacious desk with a large monitor and a drawing tablet. This is yours. The team is gathering in the conference room in 10 minutes for the project kickoff. My hands felt clammy. This was real. They'd actually given me a desk. They were expecting me to contribute. The conference room held about 15 people. I took a seat near the end of the table, trying to make myself small. Alex entered last, and the room's energy shifted subtly. He didn't command attention with volume, but with presence. Team, this is Sophia Evans, he said, his gaze briefly meeting mine. She's joining us for the Aura project. She brings a fresh perspective that I believe will be valuable. He didn't mention how we'd met, or my lack of a fancy resume. He simply stated I had value. The project lead, a sharp woman named Maya, began presenting. Aura was a new line of sustainable activewear, and Thorn Enterprises was launching it as a direct competitor to major brands. My role, as part of the visual identity team, was to help develop the logo, packaging, and overall brand aesthetic. In the first brainstorming session, I was too intimidated to speak. I just listened, scribbling notes and quick sketches in my notebook. During a break, Maya stopped by my desk. "Alex says you have a great eye for organic shapes," she said, glancing at my sketchbook. "Let me see what you're thinking." Hesitantly, I showed her my pages. She pointed to a sketch of a leaf motif woven into a stylized letter A. "This is interesting. Clean it up. I want to see a digital version by end of day." Someone was taking my work seriously. My heart soared. That first week was a whirlwind of learning. I was surrounded by people who spoke the language of kerning, Pantone colors, and user experience. They debated passionately about design choices, but it was always about the work, never personal. When I finally offered an idea in a meeting, a suggestion, about using a particular shade of green to evoke growth and calm, the team actually paused, considered it, and incorporated it. My idea, my contribution. It was a stark contrast to the silent dinners at home. My family had been treating me with a cold, bewildered distance since I'd signed the contract. My mother would ask, "And how was your little job today?" with a tone that suggested I was playing office. Chloe had taken to making passive-aggressive comments about nepotism and charity cases, completely missing the irony. One evening, about 2 weeks into the internship, I was working late, refining the Aura logo. The floor was quiet. Most everyone had gone home. "Still here?" I jumped. Alex stood nearby, holding 2 mugs. He handed one to me. "Chamomile tea. You look like you could use it." "Thank you," I said, surprised. "I just want to get this right." He pulled up a chair. "Talk me through your iterations." For the next 20 minutes, I walked him through my design choices, why I'd chosen this curve, that weight, this balance of negative space. He listened intently, asking thoughtful questions. He wasn't humoring me. He was engaging with me as a professional. "You have a strong instinct for brand storytelling," he said finally. "That's not something you can teach. Your family, they never saw this in you, did they?" The question was gentle, but it hit a deep chord. I looked down at my sketches. No, they saw quiet. They saw awkward. Design was just my quiet thing. "Sometimes the people closest to us are the blindest," he said, his voice low. "They see the version of you they created, not the person you actually are." He stood to leave. "Don't work too late. Your best ideas will come when you're rested." As he walked away, I felt a profound sense of validation. He saw me. Not my family's narrative, not the girl in the corner, but me. The following Monday, we had a major presentation with the marketing team. Maya was leading it, and everything was going smoothly until the head of marketing, a man named David, pointed to the logo concepts, including my refined leaf motif A. "I'm not seeing the edge here," he said dismissively. "It's soft. It's feminine. We need something that appeals to a broader, more performance-driven demographic." My heart sank. Maya began defending the work, but David was powerful and stubborn. From the back of the room, Alex, who had been silent, spoke. "David, what are the core brand values for Aura?" "Sustainability, mindfulness, and inclusive performance," David recited. "And which of those values does Sophia's logo not communicate?" Alex asked, his tone neutral. David faltered. "Well, it's very soft. Mindfulness is often soft. Sustainability is organic. Are we suggesting those are weak values?" Alex countered. "Sophia's design beautifully balances the organic with a subtle strength in the line work. It communicates exactly what we want Aura to be. Strong without being aggressive. Inclusive without being generic. I suggest we proceed with this direction." The room was silent. David, properly chastised, nodded. "Of course. I see your point." After the meeting, Maya squeezed my shoulder. "Nice work. Having the CEO personally defend your design isn't a bad first month." I was floating. He hadn't just defended the design. He'd defended me. He'd named me in that room of senior executives. That night, I arrived home to a tense family dinner. Chloe was there, visiting. "So how's the fake job?" she asked, smirking. "It's not a fake job," I said, my voice calmer than I felt. "My design was approved today for a major company launch. My father looked up, actually interested. What kind of design? Before I could answer, Chloe cut in. I'm sure it's very cute, but let's be real, Sophie. This guy probably just feels sorry for you. It won't last. Something in me snapped. The confidence I'd been building for weeks finally found its voice. His name is Alex, I said, my voice clear and cutting through the dining room. And he doesn't feel sorry for me. He respects my work. More importantly, I'm starting to respect it myself. You can believe whatever you need to, Chloe. But I am done believing it with you. I stood up from the table, my food untouched. Where are you going? My mother asked, startled. Back to work, I said. I have a career to build. I walked out, leaving a stunned silence behind me. It was the second time I'd walked away from them. But this time it wasn't a stranger leading me. I was walking on my own. The girl from the corner was gone, and in her place was a woman who knew her own worth, and it was a value no one in that house could ever diminish again. Walking out of my family's house that night felt like crossing a border, into a new country. The air itself felt different, lighter, charged with possibility instead of heavy with judgment. I didn't go back to the office. I went to a quiet cafe, ordered a coffee, and just breathed. For the first time, the silence wasn't lonely. It was peaceful. I was making a choice for myself, and the consequences, good or bad, would be mine alone. The next morning, I arrived at Thorne Enterprises with a new sense of ownership. This wasn't just a temporary escape. It was my career, my future. The team had heard about the marketing meeting, and the way they looked at me had shifted. There was a new layer of respect. I was no longer just the new intern. I was the designer whose work the CEO had personally championed. Weeks turned into a month, then 2. The Aura project consumed us. I was no longer just executing someone else's vision. I was leading the development of the secondary branding elements, the patterns for the clothing lines, the iconography for the app, the tone of the social media visuals. My organic and intuitive style, as Maya called it, became a guiding principle for the entire campaign. One evening, as another late night loomed, Alex appeared at my desk. You've been putting in a lot of hours, he said, leaning against the partition. It's noticed, and it's appreciated, but burnout isn't a badge of honor here. Come on, I'm buying you dinner. It wasn't a question. Before I could protest, he was heading for the elevator. We went to a small, elegant Italian restaurant a few blocks away, a place with checkered tablecloths and the smell of garlic and baking bread. It was the opposite of the corporate dining I'd imagined. Over plates of pasta, the conversation drifted from work. He asked about my art, what I loved to draw when no one was looking. I found myself telling him about my childhood dream of illustrating children's books, a dream I'd buried because it seemed impractical. Impractical is a word people use to kill dreams they're too scared to pursue themselves, he said, swirling his wine. My father told me starting a company was impractical. I did it anyway. And your mother? I asked, venturing into personal territory for the first time. His expression grew somber. She passed away when I was young. She was the creative one, like you. She always told me to build things that mattered, not just things that made money. Alex is across the room. He gave me a single proud nod. It was everything I had ever wanted from my family and never received. The launch was a sensation. Industry websites praised the brand's refreshingly authentic and elegant aesthetic. Social media lit up. By the end of the day, preliminary sales figures were blowing past projections. That night my phone blew up, but it wasn't with congratulations from my family. It was a string of furious texts from Chloe. I see you're all over the business news. Aura. So you're the one who designed that? You used our family dynamic as inspiration, didn't you? Strength without aggression. Is that your little dig at me? You've been scheming this whole time, making us look like fools. Then, a text from my mother. Your sister is very upset. Was this your plan all along? To embarrass us? I stared at the screen, a cold sadness settling in my chest. Even my success was somehow an attack on them. They couldn't just be happy for me. They could only see it through the lens of their own narrative, where I was the villain. The final text came from my father, and it was the one that broke me. We need to talk. Your sister thinks this man is exploiting you. We're worried. That was it. The culmination of my greatest professional triumph, and my family was worried about me. They were pathologizing my success, turning it into a symptom of something wrong. I didn't reply. I turned off my phone and looked around my small apartment, which was filled with my sketches and the quiet satisfaction of a day's hard, honest work. The contrast was staggering. In one world, I was a respected professional, a key part of a successful launch. In the other, I was a problem to be solved, a wayward child to be managed. The two worlds I had been trying to straddle had finally and irrevocably collided, and it was clear they could not coexist. The choice Alex had given me that first day was no longer a future decision. It was a present, pressing reality. I could have my family's constant criticism and suspicion, or I could have my own life, built on my own terms. Sitting there in the quiet, I knew which one I had already chosen. The girl they had put in the corner was now standing in the center of her own world, and she wasn't going back. The unveiling wasn't just of a new brand. It was the final, clear revelation of who I was, and who I was meant to be, with or without their approval. The silence from my family stretched from days into weeks, a stark contrast to the roaring success of the Aura launch. The brand was being featured in major magazines, and my name was quietly circulating in design circles. At work, I was no longer Sophia the intern, but Sophia the lead designer on upcoming projects. The team treated me as a peer. My ideas met with thoughtful consideration, not the automatic dismissal I had known my whole life. Yet a dull ache persisted. It wasn't that I missed the criticism or the belittlement. I missed the idea of family. The fantasy of parents who were proud and a sister who was a friend. Letting go of that fantasy felt like a necessary, but painful, amputation. One afternoon, Alex called me into his office. "Sit," he said, his expression unreadable. He slid a printed email across his minimalist desk. It was from my father, addressed to Alex's official company email. "Mr. Thorne," it read, "we are writing out of deep concern for our daughter, Sophia. We believe she may be in a vulnerable state and that her judgment is being clouded. The sudden change in her behavior and her estrangement from her family is alarming. We respectfully request a meeting to discuss her situation and your intentions toward her." My face burned with a mixture of humiliation and white-hot anger. They had gone behind my back. They were trying to pathologize my success and frame Alex as some kind of predator manipulating a vulnerable woman. I looked up at Alex, my eyes stinging. "I'm so sorry. This is so unprofessional. Stop," he said, his voice calm but firm. "You have nothing to apologize for. Their actions are not a reflection on you." He leaned forward, his gaze intense. "This right here is the final test, Sophia. This is them showing you who they are when you are at your strongest. They cannot celebrate your light, so they are trying to blow it out. What should I do?" I whispered, feeling that old, familiar pull of powerlessness. "That is the wrong question," he replied. "The question is, what do you want to do? You can let them pull you back into their drama, or you can finally, completely choose yourself. But know this, if you choose yourself, you have my full and unconditional support. Not as your boss, but as your friend." His words were an anchor in the storm of my emotions. Friend? He saw me not as a charity case or an employee, but as a friend. "I want to choose myself," I said, the words feeling both terrifying and liberating. "Good," he said. "Then let's handle this together." He drafted a reply with my input. It was a masterpiece of corporate politeness that was also a firm, unassailable shield. "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Evans," it read, "thank you for your concern. Sophia Evans is a valued and integral member of our team at Thorne Enterprises. Her contributions, particularly to the successful Aura launch, have been based on her exceptional talent and professional judgment. Her personal life and family relationships are private matters outside the purview of this company. We do not discuss employee performance or status with third parties. Sincerely, Alexander Thorne, CEO." It was a declaration of independence, written on the letterhead of one of the city's most powerful companies. He was using his authority to protect my autonomy. When he hit send, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders that I had been carrying for 26 years. The fallout was immediate and final. My parents were furious, of course. They called it a cold corporate brush-off. Chloe sent one last, venomous text. "Enjoy your soulless corporate life with your sugar daddy. You're dead to us." This time the words didn't shatter me. They just bounced off. They had no power here in this life I was building. A few months later, on a bright Saturday morning, I was standing in a vibrant, sunlit community center in a part of the city my family would never have visited. The air buzzed with the energy of 24 teenagers, their hands covered in paint and charcoal, their eyes alight with the same creative fire I'd once hidden away. "This," I said to the group, my voice clear and confident, "is the first official workshop of the Create Your Path Foundation." The foundation had been my idea. A portion of the bonus I received from the Aura launch matched dollar for dollar by Alex, had funded it. Its mission was simple: to provide art supplies, mentorship, and portfolio-building workshops for underprivileged kids who, like me, had creativity burning inside them but lacked the support to fan the flames. Alex stood at the back of the room, leaning against the doorframe, watching me with a quiet, proud smile. He wasn't the center of this story. He was the support system. This was my legacy. A shy girl of about 15 named Lila was meticulously working on a watercolor. It was stunning, full of emotion and a raw, untrained talent that took my breath away. "This is beautiful, Lila," I said, kneeling beside her. "You have a real gift." She shrugged, not meeting my eyes. "My dad says it's a waste of time. Says I should focus on something that'll get me a real job." The words were a perfect echo of my past. I felt a pang of recognition so sharp it was physical. "I used to hear the same thing," I told her softly. "But your talent isn't a waste. It's a superpower. It's your way of seeing the world, and the world needs to see what you see. Don't ever let anyone make you hide your light." She finally looked up at me, her eyes wide, searching for the truth in my words. I saw myself in her, the doubt, the fear, the longing for someone to say, "You are enough." Later, as the workshop wound down, Alex and I cleaned up in comfortable silence. "You were amazing with that girl," he said, stacking chairs. "You gave her something today that no one ever gave you." "What's that?" I asked. "Permission," he said simply. That evening, we sat on the terrace of my new apartment, the one I'd leased with my own earnings, looking out at the city lights. It was a world away from my parents' house in every sense. "It's strange," I mused, sipping my tea. "I don't hate them. My family, I just feel a distant sort of pity. They're trapped in their own small world, and they'll never know the joy of seeing someone they love truly shine." "That's not strange," Alex said. "That's called peace. You've made peace with their limitations, and in doing so, you've freed yourself from them." He was right. The anger was gone. The hurt had scarred over, leaving behind a wisdom that was now a part of me. The greatest revenge wasn't hatred or success, though success was sweet. It was this profound, unshakable inner peace. I looked at Alex, this man who had seen a spark in a humiliated woman in a corner and had chosen not to look away. He hadn't just given me a job. He had given me a mirror, showing me a version of myself I had never dared to believe in. "My sister made me sit alone in the corner at her wedding," I said, the memory now feeling like a story from someone else's life. "She thought she was putting me in my place, but she was actually giving me the greatest gift, because that moment of ultimate humiliation forced me to make a choice. I could stay in the corner, or I could take the hand of a stranger and walk into a new life." I reached out and took his hand, our fingers lacing together naturally. "It felt like coming home. I chose to walk," I whispered. "And in that choice, I had found everything. A career I loved, a purpose that filled my soul, and a love built on mutual respect, and the shared understanding of what it means to rise from the ashes of other people's expectations." The invisible sister was invisible no more. She had become a beacon, and her light would now help other lost souls find their way home. The legacy of that lonely corner wasn't pain. It was a testament to the incredible strength we can find when we finally decide to stand up, walk out of the shadows, and claim our place in the sun. My sister thought putting me in that corner would make me small. She thought it would remind me of my place. But she was wrong. That corner became the starting line for the rest of my life. It taught me that the most powerful family isn't always the one you're born into, it's the one you build. The one that sees your light, celebrates your strength, and reminds you of your worth when you forget it yourself. The greatest revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting free. It's about building a life so full of purpose and love that the pain of the past simply loses its power. My name is Sophia, and I am no longer the girl in the corner. I am the woman who had the courage to walk away from the shadows and step into my own light.